Welcome back. It's good to be with you again. Now, as a complete aside, I wasn't going to wear the shirt today, but I realized that I had worn it in the first two installments of this trilogy of videos. So I kind of had to put it on, didn't I? Anyway, you will recall that, is it a week ago? Is it a week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever? I introduced what I always remember having been called back in the day the Flowerpot Imac. It seems like most people today refer to it as the desk lamp, but you've seen it, you know what we're talking about. In fact, when I bought it, it was in that set of three iMacs, the G3 and the two G4s. And the seller, I went to pick it up, he was local. So the seller asked me to call him when I was 15 minutes out. So I put an entry into my address book so I could use CarPlay to call the guy, but I didn't know his name. So I made an entry for Flower Pot, which is still in my address book to this day. Anyway, I showed it to you. We had a bit of the adventure of getting what I needed to upgrade it, but the upgrades, as you may remember, were very, very successful. Now, that upgrade video came out just a couple of days ago, but I had been using it right along with the 1.25 gig of RAM and the original hard drive. So I have a very good idea of what it can do. So we're going to wrap that one up and then take a good look at where we might go next. Well, I do hope you will be interested in staying with me for this, and if you are, stay tuned. Very obvious reason why it was referred to either. I always thought it was a flower pot, as I said, thinking this base to it looked kind of like a vase, and the flowers would come up. But you can see the desk lamp analogy too, with the neck and leading to the monitor there. By the way, this thing here is the holder for an iSight camera. iMacs did not have built-in iSight cameras until the last iteration of the iMac G5s. But they did bring out an independent iSight camera that connected via FireWire. And it would slide into here. Now, since I don't have an iSight camera, I had been thinking, okay, well, that's obviously a suction cup, isn't it? We'll just take that right off. There's an adhesive on that. That is really stuck on, which is kind of unfortunate. I mean, I would very much like to be able to move that, use it perhaps on other machines, like maybe on the PowerBook G4. It would be very nice to stick it on the back. Now, whoever put this on obviously moved it over to the side here so as not to interfere with the shiny Apple logo. But yeah, that's not coming off. So I did the only thing that an Apple collector could do, since this looks a little weird as it is. I've got an iSight camera coming, so it will be complete. Oh well, but maybe we'll see that in a short video clip coming up. All right, I'm going to walk around, set the camera here on the tripod. There's the new tripod, by the way. And we'll get into the machine. Stay tuned again. it is a beautiful looking machine. Of course, I've positioned the camera so that you get the best possible look at the screen to see the display, to see what the machine is doing. But it is sitting here with the two twin Apple Pro speakers, the Apple Pro keyboard, which is not in great shape, but is what shipped with the machine. I had to use it. And the successor to the Apple Hockey Puck mouse. All right, so being that this is a YouTube tech video, I think we're obligated to time the startup. So pressing the button, got the light and the chime. I sometimes wonder why I keep doing this. But I think it's good because it is evidently jumping to life very, very well. Here we go. And there's the desktop ready to go in under 30 seconds. You know, I don't really mind if it takes a minute for a machine to get going once it gets going. Anyhow, we're booted up here into the Tiger install. That's where we left the machine from that short video I did about installing Tiger from the Firewire installer, which blew my mind, to tell you the truth. There will be videos upcoming about improving the Firewire installers, since there are too many operating systems on that one drive. Anyhow, that's from the last video, not germane to this. So here we are in Tiger. Now, I have done almost nothing to set up Tiger other than to get it installed and do all of the many system updates that it needs from the version that the installer put on. One thing I did do, though, you notice this package here, CPU Mac OS 9 US package. It's an installer package that is designed specifically to drop an OS 9 system folder in either Panther or Tiger on a machine which cannot boot OS 9 natively. This machine shipped originally with Jaguar 10.2. All the Macs that shipped with Jaguar cannot boot into OS 9. Well, you can finagle with them some and sometimes convince them to do that, but generally speaking, no. So I did, in fact, do just that. You can see here, looking in here, Applications Mac OS 9. All of the necessary OS 9 files are there. Now, I haven't really put anything in there. However, what can we start? Netscape Communicator. Back in the day, I was a Netscape / Mozilla champion. We did internet support for the Netscape browser, and then later the Mozilla suite once that started to take over. So we can start that up, and there you see the classic environment is loading up. If we want to see the classic Mac OS 9 startup screen, it's 9.2.2. So classic has to get started. Then Netscape will open. Now, the thing is, in order to actually use Netscape, you would have to set up a profile, which has not been done. I am not going to do that. We would find there isn't much, although it was interesting. If you go back looking at the Purple G3 series of videos, the only browser I could get on it enabled me to download some things to get that machine going was Netscape Communicator, which kind of brought me back, I have to say. Okay, so we can close out of that for the moment. Take a look at About This Mac. 10.4.11, the last version of Tiger. We still, of course, have that 1 gigahertz PowerPC G4, 2 gigabytes of RAM now, which of course is an improvement. Now, it identifies actually, rather than iMac, the Intel iMacs would all identify as iMac. The first Intel iMac was the iMac 1,1. These machines, and it was true of the G3 too, identify as Power Macs. So this is the Power Mac 6,1. All right, we still see our memory and all of that. Let's take a look at the graphics and displays. NVIDIA GeForce 4 MX, and that very nice 64 megabytes video RAM. It's not much, but it does do the job way better than 32 megs, or Lord help us all, 16. All right, and yes, Quartz Extreme is supported. Since your core image is not supported, however, when we get into Leopard, we'll see that the software takes care of that. So we're very functional. There's our memory, 2 1 gigabyte modules, the one on the inside as we saw, and then the one just after you take the faceplate off. Take a look up in ATA. Pioneer DVD-RW and the SBC solid state disk. This one disk I have divided, of course, into partitions. We've got a 40 gigabyte partition for Tiger, which is plenty for Tiger and OS 9. And you can see I've done very little with it. There's still 36.5 gigabytes available. I have a 100 gigabyte partition for Leopard. Obviously, I've done a lot more with Leopard. We will see as we get into that. And then, of course, there's the data partition that's available to either one of the OSs. There is an airport card. It is currently logged in my network, and we are on wireless right now. I have not plugged in the Ethernet on this. It isn't necessary. This seems to work very, very, very well. There is no Bluetooth, however, and looking at the disk burning, we do have reads DVDs, writes CDs, writes DVDs. So very functional, and that could be very handy. And we've seen, of course, since I used the DVD drive to install Leopard, it is working and working well. All right, I don't think there's anything else we need to see in here. And it's not really going to be too much to look at, just because I haven't done any real setting up of this. However, one interesting thing to note, if you have, since the other partitions are of course available, if you have applications that will run on both, the BBC App Store, for instance. See, it comes up perfectly well, even though it's not native on this partition, so you could make use of it. You could do the same thing with 10.4 Fox. Now, one of the things that will happen, well, let's do that. While the 10.4 Fox is in the applications folder on the Leopard partition, it will open and run. It does function. Slowly. Come on. Any day now. Oh, it opened up. Why not? Okay. Yeah, I had been messing around with it, and I tried opening it to make sure that it would, and of course it did. So I guess it set up its profile. Any application like 10-4 Fox has to have a profile. This was unable to find the profile folder on the Leopard SSD, since we're booted. Our start partition is Tiger, so it created its own profile here on Tiger, and I can use this. There's no real need now to put 10-4 Fox in on this partition, because we can share it with Leopard. And that would be true of things like 10-4Bird, the email program. However, if I were to open up 10-4Bird, I can tell you what would happen. It would not be able to find its profile, since it's set up on Leopard right now. It would have to create a profile on the Tiger partition, and then I'd have to go through and set up all of its email accounts, which I am not going to do right now, having already done that on the Leopard partition. All right, now the thing is, you do have to realize what applications here will be compatible. NeoOffice, for instance, I know would open on both of these. However, something like QuickTime Player, here you get the error message. You cannot use the application QuickTime Player with this version of Mac OS X. What that means is we can't use this version of QuickTime Player. The version of QuickTime Player I've got on Leopard is 7.7. You have to install that if you're going to watch YouTube videos with Leopard WebKit. And in fact, the installer, the disk image, when you mount it to install WebKit, one of the items in there, there's a series of scripts that you have to, well, you don't have to, but you can. They automate terminal commands that assist in setting up WebKit. So it will behave as though it were a native Safari in the operating system. One of the things that goes along with it there is a link to get to QuickTime Player 7.7, which is very, very important. Okay. Yeah, well, I don't think we need to spend any more time here, on a machine that's this powerful, that can run Leopard as well as it can. That's where you're going to be spending most of your time. The main reason for having Tiger on at all is to be able to get at OS 9 apps, really. Okay, since there is no Classic on Leopard. All right, so we have now selected Leopard as a startup disk, and we shall restart. I was a little late hitting my button. I figured I might as well time Leopard. Leopard, it would not surprise me for Leopard to take a little bit longer, but maybe not, since it's not exactly coming up from a cold boot. See that little tail on the spinning thing is the scratch on the screen, unfortunately. Yeah, we're still not loaded, and there we are. So I make that a little over 41 seconds. Still not a bad boot time at all. I'm so used to going to About This Mac, I can't help myself, but you're going to see exactly the same information here, with one exception. Go down into Graphics and Displays. We saw that while Quartz Extreme was supported in Tiger, Core Image was not, but here it is supported through the software in Leopard. So we're good to go on everything. All right. Now, as far as the applications, I've done so many of these. If you've actually stayed through the videos so long as to see them, you'll be familiar with it. I already opened up BBC App Store. It's gotten a little dated, but it is kind of handy for a quick grab of certain applications or a quick find for applications you might not have thought of. And I might as well open up. There's some blasts from the past in there. A lot that, quite honestly, don't work. Not quite sure why the developer put them in. One of these days we've got to try. I use 1Password. That's my password manager. But I really got to wonder, is 1Password on a PowerPC going to be able to access all of my stored passwords? I'd be curious to find out, but obviously not right this moment. CyberDuck and FileZilla. I mean, it reads FileZilla as a file manager. I suppose it is, but I used these back in the day, both of them, as FTP clients, back when people really used FTP clients. All right. Openoffice. Never used Openoffice on Mac. Back in the old Windows days or on Linux, I used Openoffice. Never really got into LibreOffice. I mean, on Linux, I would use it because it's kind of the only game in town. NeoOffice, we've seen that is more like a native Mac app. AppleWorks, and AppleWorks will run on Leopard. It's the carbonized version that goes back to, heck, I think System 7. And then got carbonized just as OS X was first introduced and just kept on working. I don't have it installed. Oh, Composer. I used Composer as a quick web editor because it had a WYSIWYG interface but gave you very, very easy access to the HTML code. It says you can make a professional looking website without needing to know HTML. Well, believe me, you gotta know some HTML. You just have to. All right. Yeah, there's a bunch of things in here. All of the iLife suites. Okay, well, we could get in this forever. Yeah, it's a handy little thing. It certainly doesn't replace the usage of Macintosh Garden or Macintosh Repository. Those two are almost interchangeable. They have so much of the same software there. The Garden is heavier on the games, to be sure. In some ways, the repository is a little bit better organized, but we all tend to gravitate to the Garden, I think. All right, 10.4 Bird. I love this program. Once it finally opens, and it is slow, I know it's slow, but once it finally does open, it is a heck of an email client. And very, very functional. And here we are. All of my many email accounts that I happen to have. Easy to set up. You know, there's an email has just come in from eBay. I'm going to have to take a look at that just because, you know, who knows what it might not be. Yeah, several emails have come in while I've been in the process of shooting video. Obviously, I'm not going to look at the emails at this point, just on the off chance there's something personal in there. But you can see that works really, really well. Setting it up, even with all of these email accounts, very simple. The wizard that sets them up pretty much does it all for you. If you know your email address and your username password, it'll pretty much set it up for you. And I let the wizard do it. I will always check manually just to make sure, and sometimes there are little tweaks I have to make, but boy is it simple. The only one that's a pain is iCloud. I am so tired of going to Apple's website, setting up app-specific passwords, for all of these things. I've discovered a workaround in going back to my Netscape Mozilla Champion days. I knew all of the tricks for moving profiles from one machine to another, and what file I had to copy, actually folder within a file, that needed to be copied in order to basically clone your installation. So when I set this up, I just opened it, it created a profile. I then went into the profile directory, since I know where it is, and took my old profile folder, renamed it to whatever they had named the application had named the new one. That happens a lot. I don't think it matters really. Okay, it may be Thunderbird trying to update, which it can't really do. Anyway, it's a great program. On a machine that has this kind of juice behind it, it is possible to leave the email open while doing certain other things. You can, I could do a print shop thing and leave the email open. I could do some word processing, etc., maybe a spreadsheet, and have the email be monitored so I know when things are coming in. Not a good idea if you're trying to do YouTube. All right, let's close out of that. Yep, and it closed pretty well. 10.4 Fox. Yeah, we've seen a lot of that. 10.4 Fox is slow, largely because it's not integrated into the operating system, but it can get most anywhere. If you install 10.4 Fox on a system, go to CNN.com. I'm not going to do it now just because it'll load CNN. And if you've got 15 minutes or whatever, I haven't really timed it, to let all of that stuff load up that CNN would load up, it'll work. But not something I would do for fun by any means. Okay, we'll come back to WebKit. Yeah, so much as we've seen so many times. Address book works. I haven't put samples in there. iCal works. You can put in entries into the calendar. You can even subscribe online to calendars, which is very cool. What none of these will do, of course, is the interoperability. Leopard knows nothing about that. You have to. That really started coming into play in Yosemite, and particularly in El Capitan. All right. But yeah, those work. iTunes, again, we've seen on other machines. I have not set up iTunes. But yeah, if you know the trick, you can even sign in to the iTunes store. And I've said this in other videos, but just because it is an important trick, what you have to do is activate home sharing. Because any other time you try to log into your Apple ID, it won't do it. But if you open iTunes and try to activate home sharing, then your other devices will get the two-factor authentication code that you need. You just put that in right after the password you typed in as though it were part of the password. Then send that, and bang, you're in. And I haven't done it on this machine, but on my dual G5, I mean, that's become my movie machine. I watch movies on iTunes an awful lot. Anything that I have purchased, now that I've signed in on iTunes, I can just download it onto that machine. And the movies, even though they're not high def, they look really, really good in that Apple Cinema display, I'll tell you. All right, iPhoto also works, as we've seen in other videos. iMovie is functional. You can edit videos. It's kind of slow, but it works. iDVD will work on this machine because it does have a DVD burner. So if you want to play around with DVDs, I don't know who actually does that these days, but you could. GarageBand, you can make your own tunes in GarageBand. iWeb, I suppose iWeb works. I don't really know what you do with it, and it's not the best way to go about making a web page anyway. I don't know why they even put an icon for spaces here. I mean, I use spaces all the time, but I just find it with a hot corner in Expose. All right. Time Machine is functional. I have not used it on this machine, but given that Course Extreme is supported on this, it would be fully functional. The only PowerPC that I do back up is my dual CPU Power Mac G5, because that, I mean, I use that pretty much every day for something. So I keep that one backed up. The others, hey, if disaster happens, I can rebuild them easily enough. That's kind of fun to do. All right, system preferences. NeoOffice, we've seen many times. It opens up very slowly. I believe that's simply because it's loading the entire suite as once, as opposed to, say, either the Office suite, this is Office 2008, or iWorks, iWorks 09, I believe. There you open up each individual component separately. Open up NeoOffice, you're opening up the word processor, the spreadsheet tool, the database, there's even a drawing component in there. I mean, everything that's in that suite all has to load up. And once it does, it works fine. All right, now there is one I want to take a quick look at here, Final Cut Express, which I had not put on a PowerPC machine. Now, it will on this machine complain a little bit because the minimum requirements, you're supposed to have a CPU speed of 1.25 gigahertz, and this has 1 gigahertz. I suspect, I haven't actually used it, I've opened it up. I suspect it would behave fine. There'll be another error here. See, this error is because there's no webcam. Yeah, I made the comment about the holder for iSight. You would be able to record clips using your webcam if in fact you had one. But you can still use the program and import clips. And then here you go. Here's your timeline. Import your media over here. It actually, in a lot of respects, it looks very similar to DaVinci Resolve, which is what I use for editing. About Final Cut Express. Version 4.0. Yeah, this is a cool thing. All right. In the file here, you can import files, so you can bring in clips. You can export the whole thing. I mean, I'm curious. I will at some point actually edit a video. I don't know if I'll do it on this machine, but I'm very interested in actually using this software and seeing what it's really going to do. Anyhow, I'm pretty sure I got this from Macintosh Garden. It's certainly a cool thing to play around with. All right. Now, the one thing I have left till the end. Leopard WebKit. I use 10-4 Fox as the main browser because it'll get almost anywhere. You have to be patient with it, but it will. It does not do very well with YouTube. The answer for YouTube is Leopard WebKit. All right. That isn't quite loaded up. As with everything, you gotta be patient here. You really have to be patient. Okay. Oh, I didn't want to go to the library. You dummy. Can I make it go to history instead? Yes, it went to history. Oh, good. Okay. So, opening up, as usual, one of my own videos. This is the upgrade video on this very machine. And yeah, you got to be patient. Now, of course, I previewed this a little bit, which is bumping up my own views. It's also killing my average view time because I'm only playing a few seconds. So I'm waiting for it to actually get started here. I don't know if it's this video.
Welcome back.
Okay, so
Good to be with you again.
you hear the sound coming in. Now, I stopped it. Let me lower the volume some so I can talk over it more easily. And let's bring the slider back to the beginning of the video. We've done that now, and we're beach balling. Okay, and still loading. You know, you see the progress meter here. Okay, it's now fully loaded. I'm going to leave it in this view. I have convinced videos to play in 720p full screen. Man, do you have to be patient to do that. A little easier if you leave it in 360, which is where it is now, and you can go into theater mode. But generally the best and certainly the quickest is just playing it in the normal view. As usual, okay, I've turned that sound down so much.
I introduced
Okay,
my two
there's the shirt.
Imac G4s.
Okay, and it's already caught up pretty well. At the very first, the video and the audio will not be in sync, but as of now, we're really in sync very, very well. And
Now,
yeah, sure, you do have to exercise patience, but you can watch YouTube videos, and I have been doing that. Okay,
anyhow,
I'm gonna break my rule here about only putting on my own videos, which of course is largely for copyright, because I'm pretty sure that this creator is going to be okay with my doing this, particularly since he did it to me. Thank God, God bless him. It says Action Retro. This is a cool channel. Very, very well-made videos. And if you like the videos I do, I think you're going to like the videos that he does, because he likes to do the same kind of stuff I do. Just taking these older machines and somehow or other making them work here in the 21st century. It's not that far away now from the third decade of the 21st century at that. All right, let's look a little bit at this video. This happens to be the video where he gave me the shout out. I thought it was a good one to repay that favor. Again, I was looking at it ahead of time to make sure I could find it.
Which is
I am going to pause that. Wind it back to the beginning of the video. There we go. And again, just got to be a little patient as the progress meter shows us that the video is completely loaded. It's roughly the same length as the video that I did before. I'm certainly not going to show you the whole thing. You'd enjoy it though. I do recommend these videos quite highly. Again, Action Retro. Check him out. All right. We're a little stalled here in loading. Oh, we're beach balling. Okay, there we go. We'll be there soon. And let's start her
A few
up.
weeks ago, a new version of 10.5 Tube was
Okay.
released, which is a YouTube player.
Now, again, do check out this video. This actually is a very appropriate video to be showing. Not only is it the one where he gave me a shout out, and I wanted to return the shout out to him, but you know, here I am watching YouTube videos with good success in Leopard WebKit, whereas he's using a different tool called 10.5 Tube. Which is, I mean, I am familiar with it. I have used it. The only thing I prefer about WebKit is that with WebKit, you're getting the normal web browser desktop interface of YouTube, and it works. 10.5 Tube plays the videos quite well. It does make use of the mobile YouTube, and I find the interface a little awkward to move around in, although it does work. Now, I suspect that's going to be fixed. It's an important piece of software. If you're into these Power PC Macs, this is an important piece of software to keep your eye on, because as well as WebKit works, and it works very well, it is no longer under active development. I would love to see some people pick it up again, but I believe the last time I went to the website, the date on it was 2018, and I'm not even sure if there was another version that had been done in 2018. 10.5 Tube is under active development, so when we reach the point, hopefully not for a number of years, when WebKit can no longer handle YouTube, 10.5 Tube may very well do it. So my thanks. Yeah, check it out and check out Action Retro's video on the subject by all means. Yeah, tell him Lee sent you. Anyway, I think we'll end the video at this point. And I have to be thinking now, what am I going to do next? You know, we've done the G3, we've done the G4. What kind of computer could I do next? There's a thought. Anyhow, be good to other people. They deserve it. Be good to yourselves because you in particular deserve it. And take very, very good and careful care. We'll be seeing you real soon with some other videos. Take care.